Hey guys, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Chris Sims. He is an INFJ. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, good to be here.
Awesome, dude. Thanks for making it. And like I said before the interview, we've been planning to do this for a while, and we finally got to do it. So that's super awesome. I just realized that you and Otim are the exact same type.
Yeah, we are the exact type, the 512th type. So we have the same functions and same saviors, same demons, same wirings, same animals. Yep.
Would you say you're actually the same, or there's a lot of difference still in regards to that?
I mean, we're different people. We're individuals. There's some differences, I think, beyond the 512, but our similarities keep piling up. So it's quite eerie.
Gotcha. All right, Chris. So, what kind of op type are you? Like, can you let us know your exact animal breakdown, your
Sure. So
personality?
so I'm audio, so MF, NITI, sleep, consume, play, and missing blast.
All right. And how is that missing blast kind of appearing in your life or not appearing in your life? Maybe I should say.
Missing blast is it's a hard one for me, obviously, but so basically, being able to communicate my ideas to people, being able to um, I spend a lot of time processing what people say, and I want to observe others, and I want to learn from people. But giving my 2 cents in any conversation is really a struggle. Um, and sometimes, starting tasks, I have to have like the right energy to do it. Um, and then I often don't finish things that I start. So starting and finishing things is really hard, and also communicating in general. So.
A lot of that sounds like a typical EP problem, which is very, very fascinating. Like
Oh
having trouble
yeah.
getting started, not finishing what they start. That's a typical like EP problem, which is kind of odd because I think it's because possibly it's your double activated SE then that would be responsible for that.
Right. So I'm double activated on SE and TI, and I'm single activated on NI and FE. And so in some ways, I think my type does have a lot of EP problems.
Yeah,
I don't like to be controlled. I don't like to finalize things, to be locked in.
yeah,
I like to gather more and more all the time.
yeah.
But I have IP problems too, because my ultimate demon is FE. So I get, it's like I call it a combo type because I get all these problems in one.
You're like the weird INFJ that doesn't blast and has EP problems as opposed to IJ problems.
Exactly.
Um, do you ever get IJ problems though? Like the chaos happening, or is it it's not something you're more aware of? So your tidal waves are not as extreme.
I don't think that my tidal waves are very extreme. I do get chaos problems though. I mean, chaos happens to everybody, right? So it does happen. But I think I'm not sure if I would feel like it's that big of a deal. Like Dave talks about. For him, a scary thing is like when his computer needs to update or something. And
Yeah.
for me, I wouldn't consider that to be a chaotic problem. I'd pause and update my computer, for example.
So what
But
kind of chaos problem would bother you then?
so for me, it's interesting too because I haven't been able to talk about this, but I've been wanting to. I think um, I so because my demon is Fe, so my absolute demon is Fe.
Yes.
I think that I fear chaos that has to involve other people. So let me give you an example. Like for me, a bad day would be if my car broke down because the thing doesn't work, right? And
Right.
presumably I'd be driving to get somewhere. But my fear, it wouldn't be that the car's broken down. It would be that I would be late for, you know, whoever I'm going to see, and will that upset them? And then also, I don't know how to fix cars, so I'm going to have to call somebody, and who do I call, and what will that interaction be like? So for me, the scary part of the car breaking down isn't that the thing is broken, it doesn't work. It's that I have to involve people somehow, and I have to like apologize to the tribe, and I don't know, get help in some way. Does
And
that make sense?
it does, but so you don't like asking for help from other people, and
No, I'd rather do things myself if I could. So like if something breaks, like if my computer broke, I would probably be able to fix it myself. Depends on what the problem is. Um, if I if I dropped a plate or a glass, well then I would clean it up. You know, I wouldn't have to involve anyone else. So in that sense, it's chaos, but it doesn't feel like chaos because I just deal with it myself.
right, right. So it, in a weird way, you know, because David Chan always talks about like for IJs and EPs, our problem is things, right? Not so much people. But then you're kind of like the weird INFJ where your problem is people. It's not
Yes.
it's not. But are you still a double decider then in that case, or are you not? Would you say you don't really relate to that as a result of having that, you know, FE as your main demon?
It's a good question. I definitely think that I hear when I hear deciders talk, they talk all day about people. You know, this person, that person, this group, how I belong, comparing myself to them, comparing other people to other people.
Yeah.
And I don't relate to that. I don't think that I do that. I think that I'm much more objective. I'm much more interested in the information. I'm more interested in learning than I am about people. So I think I do focus on things. I think I do. I'm like the IJ-ness fits, but am I a double decider? I make decisions pretty quickly. Um, I don't seem to have trouble like deciding things. But and I don't really have a problem like I know that double deciders can also like make fun of themselves and make fun of others, that sort of thing. I think that would be pretty easy for me as well. So I think double decider fits. Um, it's just confusing because yes, like um, FE is my demon, so I do have tribe issues sometimes.
Well, I think from what Dave said, the order of your functions still matter though. So if because FE is your second function, the potential for its growth essentially is still significantly bigger than, you know, your TI or your SE, just because that stack is in that specific order. In a way, you have an advantage over other INFJs because you can use your SE already, you can see it. And so if your biggest problem is your FE, then you can consciously practice it, and then you can really crank up that, like let's say you can level it up, you know, if you want to talk in video game terms, you know.
Right.
Let's say
Yeah.
like yeah, like let's say your maximum level capacity for your FE is like level 20, while like you know your SE is like level 5. So your SE is probably level 5 already. But then maybe your FE, if it's a demon right now, maybe it's only a level 6 or something, and then you still got like lots of levels to go. But then you have the chance to level it up to 20, and then no, when you get to 20, then no one can stop you because you can use everything, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my hope. That's why I don't really feel like an INFJ. I don't think I would ever describe myself as that, but I'm still an INFJ in OP terms because my stack is like an INFJ. So my FE is quite large. And that's the hope, is that I will build it up someday. And it's still hard though. It's still a demon, so I don't want to level it up. I don't want to work on it, but yeah.
So you don't want to use it, but it's there,
Yeah.
and you know it would be good for your career and in your personal development if you
Yeah.
leveled it up. What do you do for your line of work, by the way?
So I'm a therapist. I'm a mental health therapist. I counsel people.
And would you say you're using your FE when you're counseling people all the time?
I would say that that's the goal. Um, I would say that people expect counselors to have a certain warmth and feeling base, but I probably approach it with my saviors more than my demons. But so I have to blast a lot though in my job, which for me is it's a challenge, but I'm also I think it's forcing me to grow. So by blasting, I am using my FE and I. So yeah, I do use it.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because you know, obviously as a counselor or therapist, you would need to communicate one-on-one to your patients or clients, and you're using your NI and FE most definitely when you're communicating with those people. So your job essentially forces you to use your demon every day. So it's leveling up already, you know, just by default.
Right. And it's a challenge. I mean, if anybody wants to work on their demons, find a line of work that that makes you do it, because it'll certainly help you grow. It's still hard though. It's still very much something I struggle with.
Now, the interesting thing though is that being a therapist or counselor is the kind of line of work that most INFJs do gravitate towards. So in that sense of, if you want to use stereotypes, then you definitely gravitated, you definitely pursue the INFJ path, you could say.
Sure. I mean, I didn't know that I was an INFJ when I set out on this path, because when I was interested in Myers-Briggs and the functions, I thought I was an INTP or perhaps a shy ENTP. Um, and so I didn't think of myself as an INFJ. And I just sort of fell in love with psychology in college. And I saw being a counselor as an easy line of work because all I had to do was listen to people. I didn't realize how much work goes into counseling, and um, I didn't consider the fact that, you know, I've never been good at speaking to people and that people are a problem for me. But then again, on some level, I wonder if I did sort of unconsciously know that this was my weakness. And so by forcing myself to do it, I could only grow, right? So, I mean, yeah, I ended up in the stereotypical career for an INFJ, which is hilarious. But I'm not the stereotypical INFJ, so it's actually perfect, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Um, well, you're an NT kind of INFJ, NITI. So it would make sense that you would think that you are an INTP because you're using the TI, you know, all day long. Do you catch yourself kind of when people say something illogical? You do have masculine TI, right? So if someone is
Yes.
saying something illogical, like let's say someone makes a statement and there's an illogical part of that statement, do you catch yourself kind of like stopping them and telling them, hey, wait, that's not right, you know?
Right. So, no, because TI is introverted for me and it's masculine, I usually hold my thoughts to myself. So if somebody makes an illogical statement or just something that's inconsistent with what they've said before, I will retain that information inside myself. I will remember that they've made that error, but I would never say it out loud because my feminine FE would um, I would allow them to, like, there's possibilities, like maybe they've changed their mind, maybe they made an error themselves and they just haven't realized it. I don't know. I don't think that I would find it very fruitful to say um, you're wrong
Yeah.
or you've made an error. Like that would make me feel very confrontational, which I don't think that I am. I think my feminine FE makes me very flowy with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. That would make sense because I guess that the people who would try to interrupt people and get really aggressive with people's logic would be someone that is more of an INTP with the FE last, because they're not even aware that, you know, you need to use that FE if you want people to take your TI seriously. So um, by the way, when you mentioned earlier that you pick psychology, you know, being a therapist slash counselor as your career because it would be an easy job because you just have to listen to people. that definitely indicated sleep first, like trying to preserve your energy as much as possible. So can you talk about preserving your energy and why do you feel like you have low energy, or do you feel like why is there a preoccupation with preserving energy? I'm quite curious about that.
Right. So I'm energy dominant. Um, I have sleep, consume, play. So um, it's just for me, I spend a lot of time processing information. Like I want to learn more and more and gather and just process it inside of my head. And um, I've, this is sort of a contradiction here, but like I was always a hard worker in school. Like through my schooling, I had to have straight A's. I had to, I was president of student council my first year of undergrad. I had to be perfect, and I expended so much energy for so long, and for me it was sort of expected. I think my dad was ISTJ double masculine. I think he's no longer around, but he expected me to be perfect, and so I got to a point in my life where um, I fully intended to do a very challenging career with lots of work. I wanted to go to the PhD level. I wanted to do research. I wanted to have 12-hour work days. But then I realized, I guess maybe 6 years ago, maybe a decade ago, that that's just not for me. It's just I'm burnt out by spending so much energy. I would rather take a chill pill, and just relax and I guess be more P-like in MBTI terms. So that I feel like I'm not answering your question really well. I mean, it feels like an internal contradiction because I see myself as a very hard worker and I put in a lot of energy into my work, especially in school. But at this point in my life, I'm tired of that, and I would like to try the opposite approach. Um, but having said that, I mean, when I decided to do therapy as a career, it was just, I was at the end of high school and everybody was deciding what they want to do with their lives, and I made a quick decision. There's the double deciding, I've psychology, and I'll just go into psychology and I'll do all the work to PhD level, and I don't have to think about it. And so when I decided on psychology, I thought it made sense that it was a practical field. Um, I wasn't super interested in research at the time, um, but it's just like over the years of me sleeping and processing myself within what I'm doing, and the closer I get to it, the more I see that, hey, wait a second, I don't want to be flying around the country and doing presentations and going to conferences and doing research and writing papers. I'd rather just sit with somebody one on one and let's have a conversation and be people. So that's pretty much what I decided.
Wow, that's a very interesting kind of swing that you had there. You went from someone that's very active in your school, expending energy all day long, to someone that is kind of more taking the chill pill, as you said. Can you talk about like what your experience was like being the student council president? Because that's quite that's a very FE like position that you undertook, and like what happened? Did you feel extremely drained afterwards, or did you enjoy it? I mean, what did you like it? Did you not like it?
I hated every second of it. I so to clarify, I was at a local state university, and most of the people that I knew from high school had gone to that university, and um, I had a lot of acquaintances, and I was student council president of a particular dorm college. So every sort of group had its own council. Okay, so it's not like the whole school, but I didn't really want to run and I didn't want to do it, but my aunt was a professor at this university and she talked me into it. And some of my friends really supported me and they were already campaigning for my presidency behind my back. So I felt a little bit of an obligation at the time. And it was a rough period of time for me too, because my dad was ill. And so I I think I did one major. So like our university was like celebrating its 100th anniversary, and the biggest thing I did as a student, as the president, was I organized an art contest where we had people come in and draw art to like give a how are we going to celebrate the university's 100th birthday. And so everybody did their art pieces, and then we had um, faculty and administrators come in and rate the art, and then whoever won, the art was actually displayed in the local wherever it was. I even forget now because I was so uninterested at the time. So after that happened, I think my presidency pretty much dissolved. Like I stopped going to meetings, I stopped hosting meetings, um, I got more interested in my schoolwork and then relationships that I was having, and it just dissolved basically. And that was only one semester, and I didn't go back after that. So that was my experience. It was. I think I mean, I look back at it and I look at it like I was doing it to make people around me proud because I wanted to prove that I was a hard worker and that I was interested in doing important things. But in reality, it didn't work out that way. So I didn't enjoy it, and I wouldn't have done it if I had gone back and had to live the whole thing over again.
Would you say you have learned some important lifelong skills during that semester, even though you hated it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, and I learned from those things. And um, I feel like it showed me, and this sounds a bit narcissistic, but it showed me that I could do anything that I set my mind to, in a way. And I also felt, for me, I felt simultaneously very supported by everybody around me, but I also felt alone in the room. Because I was going through some pretty extreme depression at the time, and I had all these acquaintances, like I said, but I didn't really feel like I had any friends. So in some ways, it told me to approach life more authentically. Um, do stuff that I want to do, not stuff that's obligations to somebody else.
Right.
And that's sort of what I took away from it. But that was an excellent question.
Right. I think you needed to do it to get to that answer where you need to live your life more authentically. Um, you mentioned that you felt alone when you were in that room because you had a room full of acquaintances, but not so much close friends. So I want you to talk about friendship. Um, would you say you have a big group of friends, or you have a small group, just as a few friends that you could really say you're really close to, and you can talk about anything, and you can you know really share your life with?
Yeah, I definitely have only a small group of friends now. And I have a best friend that stayed with me since we were kids, and he's somebody that I could talk to. Of course, we're growing different in different directions. And I picked up some friends in grad school along the way. But the closest person I'm with right now is I have a mentor figure who's like a father figure to me, and he's a retired university professor, and I would say he's probably the person that I could share anything with. And that's been huge in my life. Like just having that one person that's like your support, you know, unconditionally. That's been huge. But yeah, I don't think that I have very many friends right now. And it's not something I've really reflected on. Like it could be that it's been a pattern throughout my life, but I haven't really thought about it. But yeah, I've been it's one of those things. It's like I enjoy the feeling of keeping people at a distance too, because I don't want to be drained, you know, and I don't want to like I don't want to be committed and entangled into relationships, and then I can't have the freedom to do whatever I want.
Right. It's very EP like. That's kind of hilarious. Now, would you say it's because you're more withdrawn right now? That's why you are not maintaining some of the friendships that you made several years back, or is it because you don't want to maintain those friendships and it's for you it's perfectly okay to kind of just let them drift away?
I think both. I think I'm fine with having the relationships drift away as they naturally do, and I'm fine if we reunite down the road. But right now, I'm focused on figuring out my career. Like I'm a therapist right now, and I'm working towards licensure. So licensure is like a 2-year process after you graduate grad school, and I work so much right now, so it would be really hard to maintain any sort of friendships. So yeah, everything's put on hold for sure.
So it's not like you forgot about your friends. It's that your career right now is it's just so busy. Like it happens to everybody, of course. You know, happens to even um, the most social person that likes to spend time with so many people all the time. Let's say an ENFJ, for example. But even them, I'm pretty sure if their career got to the point where they're so busy, even friendship would kind of drift apart. So it sounds like just a normal human kind of experience.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it goes back to the sleep thing, but like, for example, my work is hosting a picnic for all the employees, sort of like an employee appreciation thing, and I was invited to it, but I declined because it's one of those things where it feels like my weekends are mine, you know, and I don't want to share that with any other people. You know, I want to be by myself.
No, I completely 100% resonate with what you said. I mean, it's like you go to a company party, right? And I mean, what do you do in those one of those things, right? Like you mingle with people, you have small talk with people. I mean, you're not really building any deep relationships. You're not really having deep conversations. You're not really doing anything. It's like, to be honest, it is a waste of time. So it makes perfect sense. It's not like you're hanging with your best friend and you guys are catching up. You want to know what your friends has been up to, and you guys having a really good laugh about your life and the past, and it's good, and it's fun, and this person's going to be around for a long time. So
Hmm.
I completely understand where you're coming from when you say, when you're kind of dreading going to that company picnic. I'm like, who wants to go to one of those? It's horrible.
Right.
you know
Exactly.
yeah.
So we're on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's some ways too, like I guess, you know, my career being around so many people all the time, like I see so many people. Maybe that fulfills my social need, since my social need is smaller than like extroverts, so maybe
Yeah.
I'm getting it that way.
Yeah. You can always do like a hit and run, right? Like you make an appearance, but then you leave really early. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
those are good strategies too. Then people are not going to be upset at you because like at least you made a show, even you're just there for a few minutes.
Right.
My mom likes to call it eat and run. So there's a lot of like let's say during the holidays, Christmas season, like you're kind of obligated to go to, I don't know if about you, but for my family, you're kind of obligated to go to Christmas parties. But then my mom, who's an ISFJ, I'm pretty sure she's also dominant sleep. She keeps telling me and my sisters, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna eat and run. We're gonna go there. We're gonna go eat the yummy food. And we're gonna go run away. It'll be a quick eat and run.
That's an awesome strategy.
Like you still make an appearance, so no one's pissed at you, and you got to eat delicious food. So it saves you time from cooking, and then you leave, and then you're done. You can do
Is
whatever you
your
want.
is your mom doing that because she wants to preserve energy, or She just doesn't want to hang out and mingle with people.
You know what? I don't think my mom has ever thought about it. She has demon N, right? So one of my sisters is an INFJ, um, and she butts heads with my mom all the time, who's an ISFJ, who's very controlling of her, which is quite odd because it's weird. It's like an IJ controlling an IJ, right? Like my mother never really tried to control me and my other sister. I have two sisters, so one of my sister is an EP. I have an ENFP sister and I have an INFJ sister. But my ENFP sister has never been controlled by my mother. My IJ sister was. So it's kind of just like a weird thing, because you would assume the story is the IJ trying to control the EP rebels.
Right.
And that's how chaos happens. And the IJ freaks out that this EP is causing problems when they're just trying to keep the EP safe, right? But then in my family, it's the opposite. The IJ is causing chaos for the IJ. So the IJ is causing chaos back to the IJ, and it's like a never-ending loop. And then like
Man.
me and my EP sister are just observing, kind of like, the hell's happening here? Like
At least you're on the outside of it.
yeah, I mean, sometimes we get drawn into it, but we can get out because, like I said, as an IJs tend to tunnel vision on certain things, right? So my mother's tunnel vision is my IJ sister, and my sister's tunnel vision is my IJ mother. So it's like it's like it's
They
a weird.
feed off each other.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like I always tell my sister she needs to move out because like you can't live. Like I live with my girlfriend now, and my life has been better since moving out because even though like it's not, I just don't like to, it's kind of weird. Like I'm an EP. I'm supposed to be okay with chaos, right? But the chaos is so bad. Even as an EP, I'm like, this is too much. Like I need peace. I need order. It's really
Right.
weird.
Right. I don't know I think EPs just fear control. I don't think that they like chaos. I mean, nobody does, right? So
Yeah, and I don't want to see people fighting all the time. I don't want to see people, like.
right, because that impinges on your freedom.
What's that? Well,
If they're fighting all the time, then you don't have your freedom for peace.
well, I don't know if it's freedom for peace. I think it's more like it's more like priming. Like when you start your day, you don't want the day to start off negatively, right? Because that affects the rest of your day. You want your day to kind of start well. You have your routines, or at the very least, it's harmonious at least. So then the rest of the day is harmonious. There's no conflict. But then when you wake up and two IJs are fighting, and then you're like, oh my god, and that just kind of, what's the best word for it? Have you seen Avengers? No, okay. It's like it's like a wave, right? It's like
A tidal wave, yeah.
it's like a ripple effect, two people's they're having a massive chaos and it ripples all over the household, and then
Right, yes. Yeah. Birds of a feather flock together. So when it's negative, then other people's negativity brings you down. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then like maybe I don't come across as one, but I'm actually very sensitive. So like that affects me. Like I feel like I'm being poisoned, right, by like the negativity, and I'm like, oh my god, I just don't want to hold this in anymore. So I like, okay, you know what? I'm done. I'm gonna move out, and I moved out with my girlfriend, and overall it's been pretty good. So I'm quite happy with that. So, but that's just like a funny observation I made.
That really resonates with me. Like I've done that before too. Like people just bringing you down. Like I'd rather spread positivity and not be. It's harder now as a therapist though because people come in negative all the time. But
so yeah, I want to ask you about that. So how do you protect yourself then if all day you're hearing negative stories, you're hearing negative complaints or people venting to you? Like, don't you absorb a lot of that negativity? I mean, as a therapist, the best way for you to give the best advice is you need to kind of empathize or even put yourself in their shoes first, right? So how does that work? Because putting yourself in their shoes means absorbing all that negativity that they're living in. So what's happening there?
Right. So the key is compartmentalization. So I definitely have to remove myself from them. I can still have cognitive empathy for their situation, but I don't have direct empathy. And whenever I'm in session and I'm like doing my interventions or whatever, I'm I'm doing them in sort of a creative and different way. So it's really up to so a lot of people feel like therapists are there to help people, and the reality is that people are there to help themselves. So I can I can brainstorm and be sort of like OE about everything, and like, let's think of this idea and this idea. Does this work for you or not? And if it doesn't, if they're going to be stuck in that narrative spiral, then that's where they are. You know, it doesn't really. In the beginning, though, in the beginning of when I was being a counselor, that really affected me, though, especially with people have so many emotions and they come in and they're just very emotional and expressive in their emotions. That really drained me. So I had to figure out a way that I could remove myself in some sort of like still be present, still be there, but also protect myself, and like I'm in my own space over here. Here's the line, and you're over there, and you can have the freedom to think and feel as you do right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy you have. You know, to have different compartments, as you said, for your emotion, your own emotion and your sanity, versus like giving them actual good advice, to kind of help self-guide themselves to where they need to go. But I don't think everyone can do that, though. You know, a lot of people, they're really separating those two. It's not something that they can do naturally. You know, it's like, would you say people can practice doing this, or would you say some people cannot?
Everybody can practice this, and this is actually why becoming a licensed therapist is such a process, because um, it takes time to figure out how do you really compartmentalize your feelings and yourself and your life, but still be a present, valuable tool to be there for somebody. And everybody can do that. You know, in some ways, maybe being an NT helps me be more objective naturally. Um, I don't know if like maybe if somebody is FE dominant or has it as a savior, maybe they would tend to gravitate towards being more empathetic and absorbing the energy of people. I'm not sure, but I think everybody can, and it's crucial that everybody attempt to try and compartmentalize. Otherwise, my career would totally overtake me, and I would bring home everything that's been talked about through the day, which wouldn't be a good thing.
I had a thought, but it kind of flew away. Oh, I hate when that happens.
I hate when that happens too. Yeah,
What's that?
I hate when that happens to me too. Yeah.
I had a really good question for you, and then it just flew away. That's horrible. But um, it had something to do with, like I said, separating. Oh, I remember now. So I feel like when you were going through your training as a therapist, it's kind of like exercising. Like instead of your physical body, your muscles and your bones, it's more like your emotion. You're kind of building that emotional tolerance, and conditioning. Um, so that when people are kind of like hitting you hard with a lot of these range of emotions, then even though it hits you, you kind of have like a tolerance to it, a certain level of tolerance. So you can take a lot of hit, and it wouldn't affect you, you know long term. It might affect you short term, but not long term. Would you agree with that, or not really?
Well, unfortunately, um, my training has largely been um, experiential. So um, I think the hope of going through my graduate program is and all the courses that was helpful for abstract knowledge of how to interact and understand people. But in terms of the emotions and the nitty gritty of being around people, that's really just been from doing it. And in some ways, I think that's what my program was gearing me up towards. Like we didn't do much practicing with real people it was just until my internship, and then it's just like, well, you're doing it now. Good luck, sink or swim. And that was really hard for me. And part of me wonders if, like, in some ways, I wonder if the field is geared more towards sort of NF, or at least F types, and maybe they don't feel like they need to exercise us, as you put it, because that's their saviors. That was one of my thoughts on it. But yeah, I'd say it has definitely been a learning curve, and it's been a sharp learning curve for me. But it's been through actually going out there and doing it. That's how I've learned. I don't feel like I learned that through my academic training. Academic training was just abstract theoretical knowledge.
So they threw you in the ocean, and you're on your own. Figure it out.
Of course, we're supervised. I'm supervised at the moment, so I have people to go to for support. But essentially, the idea is to build up what you're doing through experience. Yeah.
Did you wish there was kind of like a bridge between jumping right into work after you finish all the more theory stuff?
Absolutely. Yes. I in fact, I'm appalled and I'm shocked at the way that my training has unfolded. And in the future, I would like to write on my experience, and at the very least to prepare other people for what they're getting into, because I assumed that I would go through what I'm going through now in my program, in my graduate school, so that I would graduate with sort of an understanding of how to be a pretty good therapist. And it feels like I'm gaining that as I go. So for me, that's a real struggle. And maybe that goes back to being sleep first and blast last. Like, I don't feel like I've been given enough to, like, okay, now I'm ready to just go forward and do this. Maybe other people who are blast first are like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah. You know what? That makes perfect sense. I think maybe because the stereotypical, INFJ or IJ in general do have blast first, and to them it's like, oh yeah, no problem. This is a joke, right? But
Exactly.
the way it also seems like an EP made this you know this system here, because like, how can you go from theory into practical, like, right, with no bridge, right? It's chaos, right? So it's like, it's like an EP created the system, and they weren't thinking like, okay, not everyone can just jump in. There's like, maybe you should have a practicum first that bridges it.
Well, of course, we do have a practicum and we have internship and stuff, but I mean, it just takes years to build the right skills. I mean, yeah, it maybe part of the problem too is that the bridge that they gave, just, it didn't feel sufficient for me. I don't know, but that's something I would like to explore in the future. Whenever I give back to the tribe.
Well, let's go to that then. Let's go to the tribe stuff. So, because you said FE is your biggest demon, have you had a huge FE tidal wave? Tribe tidal wave getting mad at you?
Yeah, I've had people over the years. I've stepped on people's toes, and a number of times. Like, I shared in a previous interview that I had with Benjamin, that there was this incident where I went to get a shopping cart at a grocery store with my aunt, and there apparently was a pregnant lady behind me, and I didn't see anybody there, and I wasn't looking for that. I was just getting a cart. That's what I was doing. And my aunt was so upset with me for not giving her the cart and supporting her. And so there was that. And I mean, there have been other examples sort of like that, of just like being unaware of the environment or of people or social conventions and people getting upset with me. So it's a recurring pattern.
Benjamin actually told me a really funny story when he interviewed me. I think it was after the interview. He said, "Guess what, Kendrick? Guess how I felt. Guess what I learned about Effie." I'm like, "What did you learn about Effie?" He's like, "I learned that if you hang out, if you spend time with people, that's how you become a good friend." And I was like, I started laughing so hard, right? And he started laughing really hard too. He's like, I know. He's like, it took me so long to get to that point. I'm like, is that a common sense? Like, like.
Right. But there's the baby Effie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was great. I want to ask you about the double decider. So Dave said double deciders tend to have problems with fear, as kind of like they're constant. Um, I know INFJs in general, well, not INFJs. Most people, a lot of NFs are definitely fearful people from what I've seen. Just in general. How does that manifest in your life? Like, do you feel like it's a constant? Like fear is a constant to you, that it's always there, no matter what.
Yeah, I think that I think I'm afraid. Well, the older I get, the easier it is to manage stuff. But certainly, when I was like a young adult and I was just starting out in the world, I was like afraid of everything. I was like, I don't know what this bill means. I don't know who I'm supposed to send this to. I don't know who I should talk to. Like, I have to call customer service. What am I going to say? How do I drive to this place? Oh, I hated driving. Driving was the worst. It caused a lot of fear. Like, so my biggest things were driving and talking on the phone. Those are I hated those things so much. And it caused me so much fear. But now I do those things all the time. So I don't have fear there. I think my fear is move. So now my fear is like, how am I going to set up my career? What is that going to look like? How do I develop this clinical skill? That sort of thing.
Would you
So
say that's feminine NI then? That's happening?
in a way, yeah, because it's like I have all these long-term goals and goals for myself, and it's sort of adapting as I go. And my feminine NI, it's like that really bothers me too, because I want to make plans for myself. I want to like be more structured sometimes,
Yeah.
but I just can't stick to anything that I set out for myself.
Yes.
It's really bothersome. So I don't know if you experience that,
Sorry.
with your type. I don't know if you experience that with your type. Like, whenever you make plans, do you have trouble with follow through? Like, or is it like you
I,
with any?
I have feminine NE, but NE
Oh,
is one of those things that no one can really explain. Like, what's the difference between masculine NE and feminine NE? Like, it's one of those. Like, I went to like several Facebook groups with different ENFPs and INFPs, and kind of figuring out what feminine and masculine NE, what the difference is. The consensus is NE is more passive. It's not something that you use. It's like you use it in conjunction with FI or TE. It's not something like it doesn't work by itself. It's like it has to be connected to something. Otherwise, it doesn't really work that way. So that's kind of like the consensus right now. But we're still trying to hammer it out. So we'll see if we can figure something out. As far as follow through, I definitely had issues with follow through, especially when I was younger. But I'm older now, so it's like I need to be responsible, right? So I need to follow through, even if I don't want to. It's just like you just got to do it, right? It's kind of like you go to work and you have to talk to people on the phone and you have to drive to work. You just have to do it. So it's like it's something that you kind of get over as you get older. It's not something that you really I mean, at least for me, like not something that gets stuck. Like when I set out a goal, for example, like last month, my goal for, let's say, ENFP male is to produce 12 videos per month that I publish online. And last month I was 3 videos short, right? So I was like, I need to have that last 3 videos published no matter what. And I was literally on the last day. It was like April 30th, and I was still at 9 videos, right? and I ended up interviewing 3 people in a row. And of those 3 people, actually, one of them canceled on me. And then I found someone else to interview at the very last second. Thank God, like thank God for blast first people. Oh my God, love those. Like, oh, yeah, it was Raja actually. He stepped in last minute, blast first. I was like, hey man, we gonna do an interview? He's like, yeah. I was like, what about right now? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this blast first people. They
saved the
he saved the
day.
day. The day, yeah. Hit my goal. Thanks to him. So, I was like, okay. And actually that gave me like a good strategy in my head. I'm like, okay. If it's near the end of the month and I'm running out of people to interview, I need to have like a list of like blast first people I can contact. And
there you go.
Just like hit up. But yeah, so in terms of follow through, it's definitely better than before. My biggest issue is more starting. So getting started is the biggest issue. It's not like following through, it's getting started, because I feel like once I get going, like I'm not gonna stop. But getting started is like this ENFP mail channel, for example. It took me 8 years to start this. Like I've been thinking about it in my head for the last 8 years, and then it was like the 8th year when I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just start. I can't keep gathering information. It's never gonna run out. Like the amount of information I'm gonna gather is never gonna run out. I need to rob from my consume, and I just need to start something. And I made those my first few videos I made. I felt so awkward, talking in front of the camera. I was like, this is so weird, it's like talking to myself, and like, and not only, because I have blast third, right? It's a demon. So when I'm talking to the camera, I'm stuttering all the time. I'm stuttering, stumbling on my words. I'm making weird noises. It's like, oh my God, it's such a nightmare to edit also. And I hate like video editing because it forces me to use my SI. And it's such a nightmare, man. It's just, I like the starting process is a nightmare. But like now, I've been doing it for 3 months now, I think. And it's okay. It's okay now, actually. Like it's not as bad as before. And I'm like, okay, if I can only get started, it's gonna be okay. Like that's what I tell myself now. I need to get started. Like I was talking to I did an interview with an INTJ recently. Joshua, I don't know if you know him. He's part of our op group. But it doesn't matter. So he's an INTJ, blast first, and he said a really good advice that even to this day I think you can really use. He said, failure is the best teacher in life. So the way he uses his blast is that he said, I'm going to go mess up as much as possible in 2 weeks. I'm going to do 5 years worth of failures in 2 weeks, because let's get it over with. He said, like, just let's get it done. Right. Like let's not wait 5 years to learn all these lessons. Let's do it in 2 weeks. Blast as much as possible. Then you can move on and make better decisions from there. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so good. Because like, we have that fear of failure, but then what if the failure is not a failure? What if it's like a learning tool, right? Like, I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously, because that fear is always going to be lingering there, right? Like, I don't want to, especially for you, you're a perfectionist. Like, I'm not a perfectionist at all, like I'm the least perfectionist.
I would never classify myself as a perfectionist now. I don't think I ever was. I just felt obligated to be.
Oh, you were obligated to be a perfectionist.
This is where my feminine NI comes in. It's like I might set myself a goal of, okay, I'm going to do 12 videos a month, and then I get to 9, and then I'll say, oh, well, 9 is fine. 9 is perfectly okay. I don't need 12 anymore. Like, why did I set out for 12? That's so arbitrary. So I would totally change my plan at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I think I was talking to Dave about this. Like, Dave has feminine NI also, right? And he keeps telling me, he's like, you know what? Plants are, you said you don't want to get locked in immovable blocks, Like, if your goal is like this and you need to change your goal, then you should be able to change your goal. Like, that's what Dave said to me, right? And I sat there mulling over it, actually. I was like, Because, everyone gives you conflicting advice, right? It's like, when you set a goal, you need to hit that goal, right? That's advice number 1. And advice number 2 is like, well, you need to be flexible, right? Like, if you don't hit your goal, maybe there's a reason why you didn't. We need to be flexible with that. And then I'm just sitting there mulling over this. I'm like, okay, what really is the truth here? Like do you need to be rigid and hit your goal no matter what? Because people succeed doing that, right? Or do you need to be flexible, and if you don't hit your goal, maybe there's a reason, there's something you need to tweak, and people made that work also. So I mean, like, where do you win? And then my conclusion that I came up with was, you need to set a 1-year goal and you need to set a 1-month goal. The 1-month goal is not flexible. That's fixed, in my opinion. But the 1-year goal is movable. If you need to move something in that 1-year goal, then you should be able to move it, because 1 year is a long time and you need to be able to change things in real time. But a 1-month goal helps you build discipline, helps you build that habit of completing things, So it has like a secondary benefit to adhering to it. So for me, the truth is, 1-month goal cannot be moved. 12 videos a month, if that's my goal, I need to hit it no matter what. Not because, not because I'm just being stubborn or whatever, but it's more like to build that habit that I'm going to get things done. Like I complete things. I'm a finisher. While the 1-year goal, yes, you need to be able to be flexible, because otherwise, things change. And if you don't react to the change in real time, then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Like you need to be able to change the direction of where you're.
In my mind, that's a contradiction, because if you're meeting your 1-month goal, then you're going to meet your yearly goal, because you're meeting the monthly ones.
Yeah, well, ideally you hit your 1-year goal, right? Ideally, you should be able to hit your 1-year goal. But like what I'm trying to get at is.
But long-term goals, being flexible on those and meeting short-term goals, I'm on board with that. Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a concrete example. So I have the ENFP Mail as one of my YouTube channels, right? And then I have a travel blog that I'm also running. And my travel blog, I have a YouTube channel also that I just kind of started also. I mean, I had it a long time ago, but I neglected it because I was focused more on writing than making videos. So when I spoke to Dave last time, he said, maybe you want to put your travel blogs YouTube channel on hold for now, because it doesn't seem like you're getting any extra subscribers, while the ENFP Mail has a constant increase in subscribers. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then later on, I noticed that the travel blog had a sudden spurt of subscribers, and it's been going up steadily now. So my previous 1-year goal was 12 videos a month on the travel blogs YouTube channel. But I changed that to 4 videos a month. So the 1-year goal has shifted. So the 1-year goal before, 12 times 12 is at 144.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So before, the goal was 144 videos for the whole year, 12 videos a month. But now it's 4 times 12. So 4 times 12 is what? Was that 60?
48.
48. Yeah. Again, I just shame myself for being an Asian, right? Like I can't do that. But like that. So yeah, I'm gonna get kicked out of my race. But anyways, the point is like, so that's kind of like what I mean. Like it was flexible. Like, okay, I don't need to have 12 videos anymore for the year. 144 for the year. 48 is now the new goal for the year, and 4 a month is a target. So if I've already made, more than let's say I made 12 the first month, right? Then I can kind of slack off the next 3 months or something, So it's kind of flexible in that sense. So that's kind of like what I was getting at, in that, like, 1-year goal is flexible, 1-month goal is not.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
it's a good way to go. Yeah.
That's my truth, if I'm using your language. But like I don't know what it is for you. So because everyone's different, right? So that's kind of like what's working for me right now. So we'll find out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just feel like I feel like I'm adaptable on both. Like I set short-term goals for myself, long-term ones, and I meet some of those short terms, and then I think, okay, I've met this one. Should I really continue the short-term goal, like having a monthly goal? I just change everything.
Do you make concrete goals? Like, how do you set your goals, by the way?
Sorry?
How do you do your goal setting?
So, whatever tasks I have to get done, I might approach them in different ways. Like just thinking back to school, like if I had like a paper to do or book chapters to read. I might try. I'll read a chapter a day if I have to get through 5 chapters in a week or something. Or if it's a particularly long chapter, I might say, okay, I'll read 2 sections of the chapter for an hour or something like that. So I might do short-term goals like that, and then if those fall through, of course, the long-term goal would be the paper, whatever I have to write, and so I would just change my plan as the deadline looms. Like I have to meet the paper by the deadline.
Right.
That is solid. That's like the yearly goal that you're talking about. Like,
Yes.
that doesn't change.
Right.
But how I get there seems to change all the time.
Yeah.
It seems to be like, okay, yeah, I start out the week and I'm going to read 5 chapters a day. Well, I didn't get through the first chapter, so let's read 2 chapters a day. Or, I just have to adapt as I go.
Do you do marathons too? Like you'll do like 5 chapters in one go, just like because you're running out of time?
At that point, I might say, is it really important to read the whole chapter?
Oh, I see.
Just skim it.
Okay, so you're using your blast more, like like blast first people. They don't even read a book; they just look at the first page and the last
right.
page. So,
but I want to consume the information. Like I want to read it all and process it.
yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I get to the point where it's just like, screw it.
Yeah, because you're running out of time, right? So
Yeah.
Then that makes sense because then you're in panic mode, and then you're forced to use blast. Then.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see. Oh, that's great. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? I can resonate with that completely because that's kind of how I lived my school when I was going to college and when I was in high school. It's like last minute you're freaking out. That's when the blast activates.
Mm-hmm.
But under duress, like you can't you have like almost no control over it. Like you need to be under duress before it turns on.
Right. Although when my blast turns on, I don't think that I think so when I have to do projects, okay. But like if I have to blast in front of a group of people, like all of a sudden talking about something, like, oh no, that wouldn't work.
Oh, I see.
I would be like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
So
for presentations, you won't do that.
No.
Do you do Toastmasters or have you heard of Toastmasters?
I've heard of Toastmasters. I have not participated. No.
I see. Because I feel like that would be like the best way to train blast, almost like to just go to Toastmasters. I want to ask you about sleep. Actually, I'm very curious about how you process things. How is it so automatic for you that you don't even think about it? But or do you actually know how you see yourself using sleep and processing things with sleep?
I think because it's a savior process. So in some ways it is automatic and it is hard for me to see. But I think I just go in my head first whenever like anything's going on. I go back to my pool of information that's in my head and I like piece together things, and maybe because it's an NT sleep, but I'm all the time putting pieces together and do they line up, and do I like the end of the equation, and if I do, then I can blast it out. If I don't, then I get really stuck because then I want to and this is all abstract too, but I want to take in pieces of information and like just find all the connections I can. And that's an internal process, and it's hard to describe out loud, and maybe too because sleep is introverted. I don't know. Was that too abstract?
No, I mean it kind of made sense. I mean, I don't have NT sleep, so I'm curious about your NT sleep because like I think what's so fascinating to me about ops is that how real it is. Like NT sleep. That's so different from my sleep. My sleep is FISI, right? So it's like my sleep is like I use SI to reflect back in the past events, and then I use my FI to see how I felt about it, because it's FISI, and then like after I use my FI to distinguish, okay, did this happen? Do I like the way I approach it? Do I like the outcome of what happened? What could I have done better? to change the outcome of that. Um, did this situation make me happy? Did this situation make me unhappy? How can I do more of this situation that made me happy? How can I do more of this situation that made me unhappy? And I, reflect back in the past, like different events that happened. I have very masculine sleep, right? I have masculine SI and masculine FI. So like I have a pretty good, even though it's my last, like sleep is my last, I can use it. I actually realized that I can use sleep as long as I'm in a vehicle. It's very particular. I cannot use sleep if I'm just like sitting here in the living room. I have to be in a vehicle. Like my sleep only turns on if I'm in an airplane, or a long bus ride, or if I'm driving to work and I don't have my radio on. Like I never turn on the radio because okay, this is the time I can use sleep.
Wow.
It's so weird. But like, so for me, my sleep is, FISI, but for you it's NITI. So I'm kind of curious. What's
So what you said resonates on some level.
yeah
I often think back to past events, and I'll run imaginative scenarios in my mind of how it could have come out differently.
yeah
It's more objective. It's less. I'm not valuing what happened, and I'm not valuing what could happen. I'm just sort of running hypothetical scenarios in my head of okay, that happened, well, what if I had said this, what if they had said that, how would that have unfolded? And I do that a lot. But I think so I'm doing sleep all the time, like if like in the car I'm doing sleep. If I'm just by myself, like doing stuff around the house, I'm doing sleep, because I'm processing all the time. So it's not just one thing. And I think personally, I think what's going on is that all of the SE stuff that I've consumed, that'll just be floating around in my head, and I'll just continuously bang the blocks, so to speak, just sort of putting together puzzle pieces, just sort of like imaginative ways that the information can work together. And whenever I do those imaginative scenarios, does that logically flow? Is it consistent with how the reality works? And if
right
it is, then I've learned something. And that's really exciting for me, is whenever my sleep leads to new understandings
yeah
of how the world works.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds awesome, actually. Yeah, that sounds great. I feel like when you were talking about your sleep, I was imagining you kind of like you're like a scientist behind, like there's like a mirror, and then you're running simulations of things, and then you're like, okay, and then you have like a clipboard. Like it's all happening in your head, obviously, and you're like taking notes and like, okay, I ran the simulation. This is the conclusion of that simulation. Notes. Let's run another simulation. Let's see what happens. Okay, take notes, and then you kind of like look at your notes after, like, oh, okay, I see, and then you smile because then you just came up with something gold. Like I don't know. That's
Sure. I mean, that's like a TE way of explaining the process. For me, it's just happening
yeah,
automatically. Like I don't think of myself as that, but
yeah,
I guess theoretically, yeah, that's what's happening.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like obviously that's not what's happening, but that's how I pictured it to
Sure.
happen
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for you. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. Um, what about your play? It's SF, right? So it's like all about like cool guy vibe, right? Like so, like how does that work? How does your SF demon play work? It's
Yeah.
also
So
it's also it's also feminine, right? It's like double feminine. So how
well,
does that?
my sensory is masculine,
Oh,
so
sorry.
I'm masculine SE.
Yes, yes. Sorry.
Um, I think my play is third. It's a demon, but it's third, and um, I think I'm just a really chill person. I think I think it makes me look very EP like when I'm like in a crowd with people and I'm just sort of
Yes.
sitting back and letting things happen as they are. I think I'm always down for whatever the tribe, so to speak, wants to do. Like if we want to do something spontaneous, like let's go watch a movie or let's drive a couple hours, or I'm just like, yeah, that's cool, let's do
Oh,
that.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
You're very like like hippie-ish, like peace, man. Let's yeah, man. Everything's cool and chill, man. Like a surfer almost.
In a way, but I don't see myself like that, but I think in some ways that's how it presents. And
Yeah.
of course I have to be in the right, I have to I have to have slept, like processed information, so done my sleep and consuming first, and like decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to spend time with the tribe and do whatever they want. And I think it is very external. It's basically like I would like for other people to decide what they want to do, and then we can just do it, and I will value that,
Yeah.
and it's fine in the moment.
Yeah.
Now, if we do drive like 5 hours somewhere and then come back, I probably won't hang out with them for like several weeks, but I'm down for whatever in the moment. Yeah.
I see. Oh, that's really fascinating. I did notice my INFJ sister when she does turn on her play. She definitely has demon play though. Is that like she becomes very like hippie-ish? It's like she's wearing yoga pants and she's like not yoga pants. Sorry, like have you seen backpackers wearing like baggy like Thailand pants? I don't know if you know. Yeah, like she'll be wearing those kind of clothes and she'd be like very hippie-ish like like. So I've seen that before, like the INFJ SF kind of play. It's very very fascinating. Um,
And I'm attracted to people who present that energy, who are very sort of laid back, hippie-ish. Those seem like really chill people to be around.
yeah, yeah. It's very like interesting because like me as an ENFP, I have NT play, right? So it's what is that like NT play? Like, does that make me like a nerd, like a dweeb when I'm using play with people? Like
Does
like
that mean you would like enjoy debates and stuff, or
no, I actually hate debating. Like
oh,
I hate debating with people, but I do like to the best way for me to explain it is like I like to talk shit with other people. Like let's
like
say
interviewing them?
well no interviewing is it's I like because I like to learn and I like to make it entertaining, I guess. Like when I interview people I try to make it also like entertaining in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like because when I use play, it's usually when I'm playing video games with my friends. Like I haven't really done it that much as of late just because I'm older now and I don't play that much video games anymore. But like when I see my friends like once every, I don't know, 2 or 3 months if I'm lucky, um and we're playing video games, and that's what we're doing. We're talking shit to each other. Like I'm just saying like the most like um crudest offensive thing that you can think of. And NTs are known for saying like really offensive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like um who was it that said this to me? Oh yeah, I interviewed an NF Geeks I think it was a few days ago, and he said that he went to the INTP channel on Facebook, the Facebook group, sorry, and he said he won't believe how offensive everything that they're saying is, and he was shocked at how chill everyone was with all these offensive things that they were talking about,
Interesting.
and he was like, it's like, is that normal? Like for people to be saying this kind of stuff? Like this is kind of offensive. That's like that's what he was thinking to himself, right? Because he said he's old school, and in his days people don't talk like this. And when he saw that, he was just appalled, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I talk about really offensive things with my friends all the time. I wonder if that's like an NT thing. Like my play is NT, right? So, and I do use it all the time. So I'm putting kind of like connecting the main connections. So I'm just very curious.
I wonder if it's in anything too, since it's an INTP form. I mean, like I don't. So I'm an NT savior, but I don't think I say offensive things. I think my FE wouldn't allow me to do that. So
NT play. What's NT play? Is that the
oh, that would be NET because it would be the extroverted ones. Okay.
their T is the INTP is TI, right? So
Yeah.
FE and NE then. So NF. So when they
Okay.
it's NF then, that's kind of how does that work? How does it work like NF play?
Interesting. You'd think that with NF play, you'd think that they would be talking about values and stuff and
Yeah.
like tribe values. I don't know.
Or maybe they make fun of tribe values. I don't know.
Maybe that would
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah. And then so when you consume, you use ST. So you're always consuming facts then? How does that work?
All the time. Yeah, and just random stuff too. Like I go through periods of being interested in different things. Like recently I've been interested in venomous snakes. So I'll just like go and watch all the Venom ER episodes, or
Yeah.
um, like learn about the Snake Islands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I
it's, for me, it's really fascinating. Like I've always loved, I love nonfiction books that are just like a collection of facts, just like the top 100 tips and top 100 pieces of information or
yeah.
whatever. And I would consume those all day long.
Like books like, oh, the, I don't know, 10 highest mountains in the world,
Yeah,
or like those kind of stuff, like, or
yeah,
like
absolutely.
the most I don't know, the most remote places in the world that no one knows about, like it's.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
I
definitely
see.
get my interest. Yeah.
I see. Okay, gotcha. All right, dude, we're gonna wrap the interview pretty soon. I have two final questions for you.
Okay.
First one is, you're the weird INFJ that can use SE pretty well, or at least better than most INFJs and most INTJs for that matter. What kind of advice would you give them to use that SE more, like, improve their consume possibly, because that's most probably their biggest weakness area.
hmm So the biggest advice I have for them is to actually do it. Go out in the world and be tangible. Stop and smell the roses, so to speak. And practice makes perfect. So
What kind of benefit did you experience when you did that though? When you're doing those stuff, because that, I think that's the most important question, because they're like thinking that they might agree with you, but then if they don't know what kind of benefit, the actual benefit from someone that's actually doing it, that's their type, maybe they
mhm.
won't, they still won't practice it.
Right. So that's the heart of the thing, right? Because even with my demons, I don't want to practice them. But
Yeah.
if you stop and smell the roses, then you might find beauty in the moment, NF stuff.
Yeah.
You might in other words, you might actually get something that you like out of your saviors if you actually practice your demons. And of course, I think with any SE stuff, you might find that if you're noticing the environment more, you have less chaos. And so that would be great to avoid that
Yeah.
if you're an INTJ or INFJ. So,
Gotcha. All right, man. And final question for you is, or not final question for you. Well, yeah, I guess it is a question. Uh, I have functions that you don't have. So you can ask me any question now, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your question, maybe about my functions. Like I have NE, for example, I have FI. Actually, all my functions are different from yours. So do you have any particular questions that you would like to know more about function-wise, or about ENFPs, or um, anything that you've kind of were puzzled about that I could possibly clarify for you?
that feels like a whole interview in itself. But lately, I've been very interested in the relationship between NE and SI, and I'm wondering if, because I think that my mentor that I talked about is an ENFP, but
Yeah,
of course he hasn't been typed officially. But he's like 70 now, and he seems very organized and structured.
yeah,
But he's also has a lot of NE, and
yeah,
he's just sort of a possibility rabbit.
yes.
So I was wondering, like, as you've gotten older, like if you look back in your childhood to now, do you feel like your SI is becoming easier to use and more prominent in your life?
I think I've hated it. Like my feelings toward it is the same. I hate it when I was a teen. I hate it when I was in my 20s. I'm in my 30s now. I still hate it, but I've definitely gotten better. Like a lot better at it. I'm quite surprised at it. It's so weird too. Like it seems like it's age that's kind of improving it. Like it's just improving over as I get older. It's not like 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 since we started op, and even a few years ago, because I realized, in the function stack, SI is the weakest for ENFP, so I started practicing it. But even then, I was quite surprised at how much you can actually improve your demon if you just actively practice it. Your attitude towards it will never change. I think you'll always hate it. um
Okay.
but like effectiveness wise, I think it does improve. Like I'm doing something now I never did before. Like every month I have an Excel sheet of every single spending I have for the whole month, to the penny. Like I've kept every single receipt I've had, that I've, like, whenever I made a purchase on anything. and I would put it on I have a poster board. I kind of just write it down. I have different categories. I categorize it too, which is something like, I would have never done before. Like I have, banking, business, food, groceries, education. I'm looking at it right now: vehicle, transport, clothes, entertainment, health and fitness. Like I have different categories, and then for each category, I put how much I spent, and I have like the dollar amount, and then at the end of the month, I input it all in an Excel sheet. My goal is to do 1 year's worth of spending behavior. I want to see. I'm going to do like a pie chart of like where my money is going, because I'm curious to see what my spending behavior is like. I'm like, where is my money going? And the best way to make that analysis is by doing a 1 year's worth of non-judgmental, objective gathering, archiving of the data, so that once I have the data after 1 year, I can say, okay, my money's going here, here, and here. Clearly, this is my problem area. This is something I can work on, because this is what the data is showing. Like I'm not making an assumption. Like obviously I have a theory, but I don't want to make my actions based on my theory. I want it based on facts, and the facts is going to be taken from the 1 year's worth of data. I've also had trouble with analysis my whole life. I've had trouble with analyzing things, right? It's only been recent that I understood what even analysis even means. Like I never even knew what analyze is. Like before, I was such an action-oriented kind of person. Like make a plan, execute, make a plan, execute. And I've never thought of like, okay, no, that's not the way you should actually approach it, because you're going to make mistakes on the execution. So actually, what you need to do now is make a plan based on the data that you've gathered and that you've analyzed, and then you execute. Because then otherwise I'm going to shoot myself in the foot, right? Like I'm learning from Dave how to do this. So I got some I did some coaching with him, and he made a Google Doc for me, and he literally like archived all the stuff there, like what my goal is, the metrics I'm trying to hit. And it's kind of like, it's almost like blasting on Google Docs. I was so fascinated watching him do it. I was sitting here with like my jaw like dropping. I was like, what the hell is this? Like what like is this what NI is? Like I'm just like watching, like I was like in awe. Like he has a Google Doc, and he's like building in a Google Doc. It's like, this was 2 months ago. Now this is the present. This is the facts in the present. I'm like, what the hell? And it's like, based on this information that you have right now, you're gonna change your execution. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like gold. Like I'm like, my mind is blown. Like, so now I'm using my SI and I'm trying to do this. I mean, I like I said, I hate it, but I was like, there's something onto this. This is important. Like this is, every single tidal wave I've had, every single time I've done poorly in my career, it's because I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I hate, like, even if I don't do it perfectly, even if I do it sloppily, it's gonna make a massive difference. I just need to do it, and
I'm glad you're doing it now in life. Like everything you just described, I set up what you talked about for my mentor to track his finances. And he's 70 and he's like blown away. He's like, this is the most amazing thing for him. And he actually revisits it a lot, and he seems to like the fact that it's organized now. So
no, well, first of all, that's very nice of you to do that for your mentor.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's it for you. This is normal. This is natural for you to do this kind of
stuff? For me, this is fun. For me, it's fun to sit down and organize stuff into categories like that. And I do that all the time with my stuff. So
that's such a nightmare for me. Like that sounds like like I do it now, but I hate it. I want to kill myself. I want to take gun myself in the head. But I see the importance of it now. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I just kind of think of it as something like, we all have to do something in life that we don't like, but we know we have to. Like you have to pay your taxes. You don't like it, but you have to do it. If you don't, someone's gonna come after you. Like it's just one of those things. Like if it's not the government, then it's gonna be, just life's gonna get you. You're gonna be poor. If you don't manage your finances carefully, for example. Like I did an interview a few days ago with the NF Geeks, Mike Budria from NF Geeks, and he told me that his whole 40s was a nightmare. And I said to myself, I was sitting there when he was telling me that, right? And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, his whole 40s was a tidal wave. And then I was kind of trying to like backward, kind of like, because he said, I was asking, what kind of advice would you give ENFPs when they're a teenager? What kind of advice would you give ENFPs when they're in their 20s? What kind of advice would you give ENFPs in their 30s? And he said, follow your heart, and you don't want to do something like you hate, because you're gonna hate it. And then I was sitting there kind of like mulling over this. And then when he told me, I asked him a question. I'm like, what was your 40s like? And what would you do again if you could turn back time? And I was sitting there and I was kind of like, and he said that he hated it. His 40s was a nightmare. He had issues with career, with money, relationships. And I was sitting there, and when he was telling me the story, I was kind of projecting myself into the future. Like, I'm in my mid 30s now, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is my future. If I don't handle my SI demon, this thing that he's going through right now is what's gonna happen. This is like the most concrete observation. Like, obviously he's in this late. He's almost 50 now, and now he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to spend a decade repairing my life. I want to be like doing what you guys are doing. Like you IJs, like you're building.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be building, not like reconstructing or repairing. Like that's inefficient, right?
Right. And me too. Like, I think that's amazing that you saw that you got somebody who was on the other side of that. And so that fear sort of motivates you now.
I got scared.
Yeah.
I got scared when he said that. And you know what? This advice I'm going to say right now applies to everybody. Like, even for you. Like, for you, Chris, I think you need to like find an INFJ in their 50s and 60s and talk to them about like each of their decade. I think you would be like, especially someone that's similar to your kind of INFJ. Like, maybe not completely similar, but maybe an NITI kind. Like, I think that would be the closest you could get. And then like ask them kind of like decade by decade, what did your life look like, and what could you change? I think you would be so scared. You would be so scared to find out what happens.
I'd be so interested. Yeah, I would love that. I hope that happens someday.
Yeah, no, it would be. It's very, very fascinating because it's almost like time traveling, right, into the future.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd be like, oh my God, like I would definitely be super activated at that point, and you'd be like, oh my God, this is the future. Like, you're like, holy shit, like, oh my God, I need to steer myself from that. That's like a massive chaos coming, right? That you need to.
Right, assuming that they haven't worked on their demons, yeah, and that they've had all these tidal waves, yeah.
That seems to be the key ingredient is that your demons needs to be worked on. Like for you, FE and SE, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, SI, and you know what? I'm my TE and my FI. I think they're pretty good. But like my TE, definitely, I'm very insecure about it because it's feminine. So execution wise, I'm very insecure about execution. Like, I know what I need to do, and it's probably right, but I'm scared to do it. So I need to freak myself out. I think too. I need to think of like, I need to talk to more ENFPs that's older than me, and then like you need to talk more to INFJs older than you. And I think that's like, okay. There's no better wake up call than that, I think, in my honest opinion. Like, yeah.
I love seeing the excitement on your face when you talk about it.
Yeah, it's
like, in some ways that's what you're doing, right? Because you're connecting with so many people through your interviews. So you're going to find the ENFPs.
I like to talk to everyone because like I feel like you guys, everyone has like a nugget that they can share, that someone can impart. Like today you talked a lot about emotional, I can't pronounce it, compartmentalization.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah. I think that's a good advice that you can provide, give people. I think like if someone can take a gold nugget out of you as an INFJ, let's say I was an INFJ watching this, that would be that. Because a lot of INFJs, I think, take things too personally. So I think that would be like the very perfect advice that they could, like, think more like a scientist as opposed to, think more like
to an NF person. Yeah.
Yeah, think more like Chris Sims. be like Chris. Be like Chris. Like next time you get offended by someone, be like Chris. Like, yeah. All right, Chris. Thanks again for doing this interview.
Thanks so much.
For sure, dude. Okay, I'm gonna hit the stop now, so I'll say goodbye to everyone.
Bye.